It's a great pleasure for me to welcome you. We are not too many, we're not overcrowded today, but the ones that are here are very crucial and important people. And a special welcome to Evelin Lindner. I have known Evelin for many years now, and she's a really great inspiration for me, both as an academic and in my personal life. It will take 2 hours to tell you all about Evelin, so I will not do that. I will just say a few words. And as the new director of the Norwegian Center for Human Rights, it's important for me to always connect our research and education and international programs with the work of around the concept of dignity. What is dignity, and how can we achieve more dignity in the world? And Evelin is a combination of a practical person who has devoted her life to dignity. And for instance, her clothes. It's not it's always very conscious how she wears her clothes and what she wears, because her philosophy is that if you look like you're from the north of Italy all the time, or if you look like you have this kind of power dressing, it makes something, it affects the way that you meet people, the way you see people, the way that you react to other people and your environment. So it's important to always also be self-reflective in that way. And it reminded me that when I was at the University of Humboldt University in Berlin to celebrate their 200 years anniversary, there was this young student. She was a bachelor student, and she jumped up on the stage and she said, "You are celebrating. What are you celebrating? You're not celebrating that we students are engaging, because we are not, and we are against a lot of things." And she was, you know, she had this black dress and looked really like a fighter. And then there was this PhD student who was very neatly dressed with a suit and, you know, everything, and she talked about excellence. And there was no critical perspective at all. And I said, forget the PhD student and, you know, go for the bachelor student, because they will change the world. But anyhow, Evelin's work is not only does she write books, and one of her books about dignity and humiliation was rewarded as
one of the best academic publications in the US.
Mm-hmm. Yes, so that says a lot. But she also is very innovative, because she has also developed new concepts like dignilog and dignity homes, and also dignity rhetoric. So a dignilog is a kind
dignity rhetoric you have coined just now.
Okay, I just did it now. But dignilog is a way of, it's a kind of dialogue that is performed or in a special way that makes people feel safe and secure and also challenged, all the things. And a dignity home is a home where you open up for people. And the dignity rhetoric is also about language. But I think I will end there and give the word to Evelin, because she will now raise a lot of issues, and I hope that you will ask her questions, because I want to connect Evelin more to the center, and then I need that you, Dina, and especially you two, will ask questions and maybe try to use her knowledge in the best way that you can, that affects your work. And also Kirsten, of course, that when she's here now. So Evelin, the word is yours.
Thank you. What is your name?
Gentian, Kirsten, and Dina.
Gentian, Kirsten, and Dina. And this is Kjell. So the only thing you have to write down is humiliationstudies.org and my email address. then you don't have to write anymore after that, because you can also see the video then. This is a short summary of what I think about terrorism and dignity and humiliation, but terrorism. At present, I think the breeding ground for terrorism increases, as do the opportunities for catastrophic impact. And Norway knows Anders Behring Breivik, he had an impact, but the opportunities to have more catastrophic impact also increase at the moment. And if terrorism receives attention, it often is for the wrong reasons and with counterproductive interventions. For me, this is one kind of summary to start with, to give you a taste. What do I mean? One single individual, like Anders Behring Breivik, has now, with all the technological possibilities we have, a possibility to radicalize much easier than other people before, just alone. He doesn't need any group, really. Just a person alone at home in front of the computer can what is called radicalize. Even though the word should perhaps not be used, there are other words. It's a discussion, an interesting discussion about this word. There is a book written about what one individual could do in the worst case. The worst case that one individual quite easily could do is create blackouts. After 48 hours, the chaos would be perfect when it would get dark in the overcrowded hospitals. So one single individual in our times today can find a way to bring the world to a standstill in 48 hours and create chaos. This is the situation we have in today. So the bulletin of the atomic scientists at the University of Chicago put the doomsday clock on 5 minutes to 12 in 2014. Why? Because there are not properly secured nuclear materials worldwide, because there is the construction continuing of nuclear power plants without bulletproof safety features, and of course there is a lack of will in the world to address issues related to climate change. This is the reason why the doomsday clock is 5 to 12 in 2014. There's an interesting book, The Next Catastrophe, Reducing Our Vulnerabilities to Natural, Industrial and Terrorist Disasters. There is an amazing neglect of, for example, protection of nuclear plants. In 2011, after Anders Behring Breivik's terrible deeds, Inga, she gave a small video message, and she concludes, let us start with dialogue, also with people who have completely the opposite opinions of us. Dialogue. This is her message, and this is also my message.
Menschen versuchen mit Seilen und Betttüchern den Eingeschlossenen aus dem Brand.
This is from the Ukraine. You have heard about the people dying. Here somebody helps, and here somebody throws a Molotov cocktail. And then the one who helps says to the Molotov cocktail man, why do you do that, you idiot? So here people are helping. And this journalist in the Ukraine says, there is a peace modus and a war modus. And you saw the people who wanted to help, they were in the peace modus, and the one who was throwing the Molotov cocktail was in the war modus. And when you are in the war modus, he says, you are happy when you have killed the enemy. If you are in the peace modus, you want to help people not to die. So here you see the war modus and the peace modus. You saw it in one scene in front of this house. In one single scene, you saw both in one place. If we look at the world today, what do we have in our world today? Do we have the war modus or the peace modus? Like, what reigns? What rules us? Is it the dialogue partnership modus or the war domination modus? And my answer, unfortunately, the domination modus is the one that is dominating everything. And how does it do that? Through government-corporate nexus, and very important, TTIP, all these so-called free trade agreements that are negotiated just now, they are crucial for this. And terrorism is intimately intertwined with that. Terrorism is part of it. I've written, this is my last book, A Dignity Economy, so I have followed with all these. You know, it is the largest corporate power grab you have never heard of. This is what happens now. It's a lot of these negotiations, so-called free trade negotiations, that are, to my view, also a corporate power grab globally. And if you have never heard about BlackRock, you should read and get informed. And then you should think through this argument that we need to create investor confidence to get growth and to get job creation. This link there, I advise to think through very, very, very carefully. If we want a dignity economy, we have to think through all of that, and we have to become very, very aware of what is happening. And I would like to invite you to see at this situation from a bird's eye perspective, or astronaut's perspective, from a very, very large lens, geo-historical lens. We human beings, we are on this planet in our modern bodies and souls since about 150, 200,000 years. We started to populate the planet from Africa. First we went down the coastlines, then we went into the continents. It took us about 95% of our human history on this planet. It took us to populate it, to fragment, to take the next valley that was untouched and where there was abundant wild food, and to, at the end, populate everything. The party was over about 12,000 years ago. Why? Because the planet is limited in surface. At some, this is, you could call the first globalization, the first round of globalization. And at some point, people were bound to hit the fact that planet Earth is not unlimited. As long as there were still other valleys untouched to wander to, they could always believe that planet Earth is unlimited, but it is not. So at some point, humankind, we were bound to feel that. And we felt that, began to feel that indirectly about 12,000 years ago. It is the start of the so-called Neolithic revolution. There are other changes, there are climatic changes, and there are a lot of other changes. So there's a big discussion of how and why agriculture started. About the last 5% of our history are characterized by agriculture. And what happened in this time? It seems that in this time we lived in a way that was very, very different to the last 5%. In this time we had space, we had a win-win situation. You could just wander off far away and find new abundance. Here, if you started to wander to the next valley, other people had it already. So here the situation is very, very different. And we see that war started only really in the last 5% of our history. Systematic war. This is a map of Europe. You see the people who died in the 30 years war. In that time, still when Hitler occupied Norway, you had only one motto. If you want peace, prepare for war. If you want peace, send Güter per Skallen. You have to resist. What is peace? Prepare for war. Prepare to defend yourself. In that context, so-called dominator societies emerged. Rianne Eisler, she calls it dominator model of society, with a strong man at the top and with everybody there, in hostile enmity or also in affiliation with another group who has also a strong man at the top, and especially the women in the middle. Today, I think we live in a time of opportunity that most people overlook. This picture kind of epitomizes this window of opportunity. Today we have the possibility to really manifest that we are one single family and one tiny planet. We see this image, we have all the knowledge. We do not no longer have to stay in, if you want peace, prepare for war. We can manifest Gandhi saying, peace is not the goal, it is the path. And if this is the dominator society, you know, in war, then this is a symbol for dialogue. It's a symbol for being together, you know, holding hands, building bridges. It's a symbol for staying two, but being connected. It's a symbol for unity in diversity. There are many names we can find for this symbol. This is what we can achieve now, since we know that we are one family on one little planet. And to me, from my research, I say it's also the transition from honor codes, like think of the Taliban. The Taliban live still in the time when our world was fragmented, everybody afraid of everybody in dominated societies. This is the honor code. Some are born high, some are born low. And here, this is the word of dignity. When you think of this first sentence in the Human Rights Convention, every human being is born free and equal in dignity and rights. This is here. Here, it reads differently. Every human being is born unequal in dignity and rights. Like in the Taliban, the women have less rights. For example, just an example. Here, it is respect for unequal dignity, or I call it honor. Here, it's respect for equal dignity. And if we think of humiliation, then humiliation is very different in each context. Here, humiliation is when you do not respect my unequal honor, for example. If you do not respect that I'm the master, then I'm humiliated. Here, humiliation is very different. It is the violation of respect for equal dignity. So this is the transition we are in the middle of, and we have to intentionally carry out. Rihanna Eisler would say it's the transition from the dominator model of society to the partnership model of society. This symbol means unity in diversity. Subsidiarity is very important to make it work. It is a symbol for dugnad, and Nansen showed how a dugnad can be global. It's a symbol for dugnad. This is namely the unity, and likeverd. This is makes possible the diversity. We can also go back to the French Revolution. Fraternité is the unity, and liberté, égalité is the dialogue, the diversity, giving respect to diversity. What is interesting is the year 1757. In the year 1757, for the first time in the English encyclopedia, the word humiliation meant something negative. Before that, to humble a person, to show a lowly person her due place, was the same as humiliating somebody. It was pro-social. In 1757, for the first time, we have in the encyclopedia the meaning of to humiliate, to violate somebody's dignity. So 1757 is a very important U-turn for the meaning of what humiliation and dignity mean. So this symbol also means togetherness, the unity in equal dignity. So this is the kind of operation, a big love. I wrote one book, Gender, on big love and egalization, the manifestation of human rights. So if we look at human history, then we can say the first 95% we expanded horizontal. We just went to the next valley, to the next valley, to the next valley, until we had populated the planet. And we could use this symbol to show how we live together. In dialogue, there were no deep hierarchical structuring of societies at that time, or of groups of people. Then, about 12,000 years ago, something started to happen. Like the party was over. And in anthropology, you have the word circumscription, which means there are suddenly limits. Something you thought was unlimited, suddenly you see, you understand it's limited. 12,000 years ago, it was the surface of our planet, land, where perhaps people started to feel it's limited because the next value was taken by other people already. It was not. So what happened to us as a human family? What did we do? We adapted, and we adapted by making vertical expansion. Agriculture also is this. It's called in anthropology intensification, that you take more resources out of where you are when you cannot go to the next level. So we became experts in vertical expansion, in domination. And this is then how we got to war. Dominated societies in war. And now we live in times of more circumscription. Suddenly clean water is not abundant. Suddenly clean air is not abundant. Rare minerals are not abundant. Suddenly we hit the fact that our planet is limited in more ways than one. And what do? We maximize domination. Profit maximization or growth. If you speak of growth of economy, it's an exponential curve. We maximize the adaptation we start to learn here. We maximize it. And in that context, we have wars, genocide, terrorism. What we have to learn is to work together, to make dialogue. And do we have a chance to do that? Yes. Because now we understand that we are one family on one planet. Our forefathers did not understand that the same way, that nobody, until a very short time ago, could see the blue planet from the astronaut's perspective. This is revolutionary. I think most people don't know how revolutionary this is. The end of the Cold War. It's a completely new historical situation. None of our forefathers could know that. So just imagine, so many people are proud of we did the civilizations, the big, great civilizations. So many people, the history books are full of the wars, the victories in wars. Is that really the best adaptation? I would say no. Imagine now, the first 95% we expand on our planet. Then we notice the planet is limited. Imagine 12,000 years ago we had the idea that this is one planet and that we are one human family on this planet. Imagine we would have had this idea. Then we would have sat together, we would have said, okay, this planet is limited, we have to work together to see how we can make it in dialogue, in cooperation. And then perhaps we would have grown in the population and we would have hit the next circumscription war. Perhaps. But then we would already know how to do it in cooperation. What we are now in a situation is that we have not done that. So we now have to unlearn what we did here. We have to unlearn and go back and see what would have been better. How can we do it better? Because this adaptation was okay for a while. And we have the pyramids and we have monuments. And of course it's immense what we achieved as a human family. However, now to maximize this adaptation that we had, the domination adaptation that we developed, is not sustainable. So we have to look back and be more critical of what we did there. And how is terror intertwined? Global terror. It's not just state terror, it's more universal than state terror. Global terror is perpetrated, according to what I see, and I live globally, I live on all continents, is perpetrated by a global government corporate nexus using partnership rhetoric to covertly advance the dominator model of society. Dignity rhetoric is used to cover a mindset of honor. In this context, I see that especially, for example, in the United States. It's very, very much of an honor in the political conservative camp. In this context, the misuse of the term terrorism for any dissent, like all the Mandelas, increases and further hollows out social and ecological health and resources for the benefit of more domination. This is, I just come from Thailand, I see that, how this happens there. One of the activists I met, he was in prison and he has disappeared. So this is a Mandela who in. The Mandelas disappear, they are labeled terrorists and then they disappear. and resources for it also increases the likelihood for those to rise up who wish to bomb us back into an overt dominator model. This is Anders Behring Breivik. He was a knight who wanted to save Norway. So he wanted to go back to the old times when there was really a clear ranked society of honorable men defending their country. This is the old time. And the Taliban and many of the extremist people I met, they think like that. We have to go back in time. So the dynamics of humiliation, how do they power terrorism globally and locally? I did my doctoral dissertation on Rwanda, the genocide and war in Rwanda and Somalia, on the background of Nazi Germany. And this is Rwanda. And this is the machete that people were told on radio to take and to go to their Tutsi neighbors and to hack them to death. And what was the argument? How could that be brought about by radio propaganda? The argument of humiliation. If you do not kill all Tutsis, they will humiliate and dominate us in the future as they did in the past. The Tutsis were the elite in the past in Rwanda. The same argument Hitler used. If we do not kill all the Jews, they will dominate and humiliate us in the future as they did in the past. So therefore we have to kill them all. So genocide as a solution for humiliation. And I know, like a Hutu man or woman who was married to a Tutsi spouse would be asked, okay, on which side do you stand? Do you love the Hutu cause? Then you kill your Tutsi spouse and all the children who look like them, because you have to stand on the side, you have to love the Hutu cause. You have to protect the Hutu cause against the humiliation coming from the Tutsis. And I think 9/11, if you think about it, airplanes flew into the Twin Towers. The advantage here is that it is very cost effective. The victims paid for bullets not to be hacked to death. So if somebody wants to really bring mayhem, the humiliation argument is extremely effective. You don't need money anymore. You don't only need a radio station. So if we think of 9/11, it's a similar structure of the situation. So feelings of humiliation, to my view, represent the nuclear bomb of emotions. And there has just recently been brain research that this is really the case. It is the nuclear bomb of the emotions. Feeling humiliation is the strongest emotion, stronger than anger alone, for example. If you turn it inwards, it can end up in denial, in quiet desperation, in apathy, in depression, learned helplessness, cynicism. This is when you turn it inside. And when you turn it outwards, it can end in the Stockholm syndrome. I would put consumerism here. Then the hot rage, the old rituals of duels or in gangs, cold rage, humiliation, entrepreneurship, Hitler or leaders of terrorist groups could be called humiliation entrepreneurs. Those who go to the radio and bring out propaganda that this group here is to be killed. And then, of course, Mandela, he comes from humiliation. What did he do with the energy in this feeling? He did do what Paulo Freire says, conscientization, to use the strength in the feelings to do something constructive, to become aware and to do something constructive. And this is what also this center here has the responsibility to do, to use this humiliation, to feel humiliated where it's necessary, to see into the face of humiliation and then to do something constructive with it. So this was kind of the summary of my doctoral research, that dynamics of humiliation can lead to rifts, more or less benign, but also genocide, terrorism, or only cultural differences can be the result. Just rifts. Dynamics of humiliation can lead to rifts. And the breakdown of international relations, intergroup relations, interpersonal relations, intrapersonal relations, and our relations with our planet. 2001 was, I defended my doctorate here at the university. I just spent 1 week with Berit Aas, recording her lectures. A long list of people I have to thank in Norway. First book, this is the book that got this prize. Second book, third book, fourth book. And then, of course, I've thought a lot about terror and genocide because Terrorism and Humiliation is the next book I'm to write. So, if you think you have people that have a sense of humiliation, what can happen? How do people react? As I said, some people, they just accept it. This is the traditional hierarchical society, like, you know, where the woman who is being beaten accepts it. Or the lowly men who are suppressed, oppressed, they accept. This is the old world, the old dominator world, where everybody who was down learned to accept it. Then the elites often made revolution. And today we have the Hitler way out of humiliation, we have the terrorist way out of humiliation. And what we hope to have in the future more is the Mandela path out of humiliation. This is simple. And I have theorized about, you know, how honor humiliation, dignity humiliation, low rank and high rank interacts and leads to different outcomes. Then humiliation, shame, and anger has a very, very intricate relationship with each other. Humiliation and shame, many people say that humiliation is part of the shame spectrum, but this I don't believe at all. I think humiliation and shame need to be conceptualized separately. So I think what our responsibility is to look at the world and to see that we live in this amazing transition, which is historical as the Neolithic Revolution 12,000 that started 12,000 years ago. We live in equally important transition times now. And we have to understand, to my view, that when we talk about integration, cohesion, and harmony, it will lead to war and to anarchy if we think of it only nationally or regionally. We have to start thinking that we are one family on one little planet. Like all the rhetoric, all the linguistics we need, we have to look through. Immigration, what is immigration? I have a global passport, which I can show you, I have it in my bag. Traditional real politics, they say, when they speak about security, it's local military security. How can we secure America? How can we secure NATO? What we have to think about, to my view, is a new realpolitik, global human security. If we think of war on terror, or form of war, then we have to think again. We need to think of terrorism as something that needs perhaps to be policed in the worst case, or to be prevented by creating a society of dialogue. And we need transparency, not with the fog of war. So what is so important is that we understand we come from a world where we had the choice between dependence versus independence. Norway, either under Hitler or free. But today we live in another reality, interconnectedness. That's dramatically different. It requires that we rethink everything. And who we are we here? We sit here, we have enough to eat, we live in the West. We are the Rajas, to my view, the new Rajas. Remember when the British came to India, they found the Rajas there, the kings, the Indian kings. And what did the British do with them? They gave them a lot of privileges, and for that, they had to become complicit in colonizing. So the Rajas became both colonized and they became colonizers. And in order to do that, they could keep their privileges. And this is us, I think. When we go and buy a t-shirt for 20 crowns, we don't want to know that we are colonizers because these poor women in Bangladesh have made this t-shirt. Then we are Rajas. Or when we buy a very good pineapple for little money, don't want to really know that the people in Costa Rica on their monocultures get sick from the pesticides and have no clean water, no access to hospital. So we are complicit. We are both colonized and colonizers in various forms. But this is, I think, the group we are. And I see four groups in the world. Wherever I travel, I see four groups. I see the very, very few who have more than almost all the rest. You know the statistics, the inequality is vast now, that very few people own half of what the rest, as much as what the rest owns. Then you have the rest, the masses, the poor farmer in Bangladesh who each year flees from floods, those who struggle for having something to eat every day, the masses. And then I see the Rajas. And the Rajas are two groups to me. They are those who, when they buy the t-shirt for 20 kronas, really do not want to know about the people and the women in Bangladesh who give their lives for these people. And then we have the other, these are the Rajas who really close their eyes too. And then we have these Rajas who open their eyes and say, wow, look, it's not good. Because they have the resources, they have enough to eat, they have time, they have education. They are the ones who carry the responsibility to change the situation. So I think we are part of the Rajas, yes, but we open our eyes. And this is our responsibility, to open our eyes more and to invite others to open their eyes. We cannot expect that the poor farmer in Bangladesh who has nothing to eat solves the world's problems, and we cannot expect that the few who benefit from having almost everything will change the world. They haven't. So we are the ones. We are the ones. It's a small group. And as you see, we are always duped. The fog of war is now also corporate war. We are always duped, lured into a rhetoric of freedom, of development, of very, very nice dignity rhetoric, partnership rhetoric is used to cover for dominator goals. Here you see the building of a big dam in Brazil. I spent much time there in 2012. Is portrayed as something very caring. And the arguments for care are put up. But basically, it's a big, big exploitation of the Amazon, of the people, of the natural resources for the benefit of the few. So it's all wrapped in nice rhetoric, in nice images. But we have the responsibility to look through that. Fracking, lovely arguments. Here, it's a planet, not an empire. This is our responsibility to say that. It's a crime to poison us. When I think of the dominator model of society that at the moment is winning covertly, I think of this. You know, it's coming. It's the wave of, really, I see a destruction everywhere I go on this planet. A destruction that is hidden. And we are complicit. This is Stadthelle. You see, here is a lovely, and then comes a big shopping center where you are to buy the 20 crowns t-shirts that are made in Bangladesh. So here we are complicit. We are complicit, and we have to look into the eye, into the face, into the truth of our being complicit. So here we have the inequality in, imagine North Korea, inequality. This is a picture of Sao Paulo. Here are the rich, here is the slum. We have inequality, as we know. Also today, the inequality worldwide is rising. So we have to do something. And this is the frame for terrorism. We have to think of framing our world differently. I thought, okay, whenever I am in the US and I speak about communism or socialism, I'm thrown out of the room mostly. If I spoke about capitalism in Chile, I was also thrown out of the room. So if you use the words capitalism, socialism, communism, nobody knows what it is, but it's a kind of signature for humiliation. People get so angry, and nobody knows what it is really. And so I thought, why not get out of this fight over these terms then? Why not take dignity as a starting point? Why not say not communism, not capitalism, but dignitism or dignitism? So why not you make a new word and say dignism? This is the new kind of way how we have to envision how we have to build our future. So what would it be? A world where every newborn finds space and is nurtured to unfold their highest and best, embedded in a social context of loving appreciation and connection. A world where the carrying capacity of the planet guides the ways in which everybody's basic needs are met. A world where we are united in respecting human dignity and celebrating diversity, where we prevent unity from being perverted into oppressive uniformity and keep diversity from sliding into hostile division. So we have to develop, I think, humiliation awareness, to get away from traditional realpolitik, become really conscious that the new interconnectedness is something that is historically unparalleled. We need to develop a new realpolitik. And I'm now coming to the end. Yeah, I have been quite quick. I have a lot of time to talk. This is the network or movement that I started. The idea came up in 2001, and it really became more active in 2003 and has been growing since then. We call it Human Dignity and Humiliation Studies. This is the website. I'm the webmaster. If you find a mistake, you have to write to me because I'm the guilty one. It's a global fellowship of like-minded academics and practitioners working for a new future for humankind. Important for. We are very careful in working for new structures rather than against all these. Research, education, intervention are our activities, you could say. Here are just some of our members. We have about 6,000 addresses in our address list and about 1,000 people officially in our network. It's not an open one, it's upon invitation. Whenever I meet a person in the world where I feel I can give you a PhD in dignity, then I can invite this person into our network. We have 2 conferences per year, one in New York at Columbia University each December. So you find me there, November, December. And Inga, you were there last December. And then we have another conference each year somewhere else in the world. And you see the last one was in Chiang Mai. And the inspirator sits there, Kjell. He is working in Bangkok and knows Thailand very well. And he got in touch with his colleagues in Chiang Mai, a very, very specific area in the country and very conscious leader of an institute. And so we were able to have our last conference in March in Chiang Mai, in North Thailand. And our next conference will be, I have to put it in. Our next conference in May, June, end of May, June, will be in Kigali, in Rwanda. And then the year after, it will be in Dubrovnik. And Kjell, you were also the inspirator of the 2008 conference in Norway. And Inga, you were the inspirator of the 2012 conference in Norway. And in 2003 we had our first conference, and Arnés came. In Paris we had it, and with his wife. So Arnés is one of the first founders of our network. Inga has already spoken about our Digni homes or dialogue homes. We have, as I said, about 1,000 members, and we ask everybody who has a guest room or has a possibility to declare their homes to be a dialogue home for our network. So these are my homes. I have 1,000 homes in the world. I have no house or place or apartment of my own. I have no things, no furniture, nothing that must be carried. So I'm always going from home to home to home to home to build this movement globally. And in 2011, Inga was the host of the launch of the idea of the World Dignity University. We start with looking at the word universitas, the Latin universitas scholarium, a community of scholars. A university is not in the beginning a building with disciplines. No, it's a community of scholars, and this is what we want to recreate. The World Dignity University Initiative is an invitation to you, to everybody who is kind of willing and qualified to contribute, to help form a global community of educators and learners for whom dignity is central. We have also a Dignity Press. We have our first 16 books. It started in 2012, in February. My book was the first one, and now we have already 16 books. Thank you, thank you. And just tell us a little bit about you. Who are you, Kjell?
Well, you know me better than I.
Kjell is one of the most impressive visionaries of this planet.
Wow.
You have a life, many decades of international peace work connected to art. You are a music professor originally, yes, here at the university for 30 years or more,
yeah,
and you have always worked internationally and have connected music with peace work. And at the moment you are in Bangkok, and I have seen your office and the university there, and you have inspired our last conference and the 2008 conference and the 2016 conference. So you are really putting so much work, so much of your soul into building a world of dignity that it's just amazing. And
wow.
Could you come, Inga? Can we do that together?
Is there a doctor in the audience?
We would like to give you the Beacon of Dignity Award from the World Dignity University Initiative, and we want to honor you with that award.
Oh, thank you. You are my inspiration. Always be. You are behind everything.
You have to give a hug to Inga.
Oh, yeah, thank you. Wow, look at that.
Yes.
Thank you.
We like that. Everybody should see.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Maybe you have some questions. I guess you have. We will use. We have time until 1 o'clock. Kirsten?
I have a very basic question. I'm not a researcher, I'm a librarian. But
Librarian here.
yes, do you think that the feeling of dignity or the feeling of being humiliated is equal no matter which culture you come from? Is it very universal feelings to? Do you think so?
I think there are very many layers in there. There is a core layer that is perhaps human, and then there are very many layers. So just imagine the social worker who goes to a woman who is being beaten, and the woman says, okay, I'm beaten because my husband loves me and it's my fault. And then the social worker says, but don't you see that you are being humiliated? He humiliates you, you should get angry. And she says, oh, okay. And she learns perhaps to feel humiliated. And then the social worker will say, yeah, good, I'm glad that you now feel humiliated, and you should also get a little bit angry so that you get yourself or your children into a safe house when the violence starts. Okay, she might get angry. And then the social worker says, you know, in Thailand, you know what is happening there? The women, they cut the penises of their husbands when they have affairs with other women, too many affairs. So there are lots of jokes in Thailand that men have ice boxes in the cupboard because a penis that has been cut off, if you put it into ice, it can be surgically put back. So, you know, of course, you know, the social worker doesn't want to make the woman that angry that she starts cutting off penises. It wouldn't be, perhaps it would go a bit far, and or you know, to get off the joke, Rwanda or you know, genocide. There you could say the feeling, the sense of humiliation went a bit too far, not a bit, much too far, and you see how it is a shifting thing, you know, and it's a shifting, and the most important difference is to me the way humiliation is felt when you think that a society is ordered in ranks, as compared to a society where you believe that everybody deserves equal, to be treated as equal in dignity. This is to me the most basic difference. In one, the feeling of humiliation is completely different in one as compared to the other. Often, very, very often, it's defined differently, felt differently. Like the woman, she's in this dominators culture or honor culture, whatever one wants, unequal dignity culture. She thinks that it's not humiliating to be beaten, perhaps even, and then she learns to feel humiliated, and then she learns that together with learning that she deserves equal dignity. So you see how this is connected.
I also have a number of, I have some remarks actually, and maybe a question at the end. You point out to the challenges and the risks from nuclear proliferation and industrial scale accidents actually. So that is something which is problematic. And if you see a number of the latest accidents in Fukushima and maybe other places, and also but there is what you're pointing out, the fact that there is the risk, but there is also, I think, international cooperation in order to deal with these issues. So I would probably be a little bit more positive about or point out some of the international cooperation, some of the positive examples of that kind of cooperation. And another point from your presentation that is quite interesting is this the change. You say 12,000 years ago, this expansion sort of stopped because the planet got inhabited. But I'm not quite sure that actually, and then conflict started. I'm not sure if conflict started then, or actually conflict has been there and has accompanied the human society from the beginning. And it was not because we couldn't expand into other territories, because I think until maybe the early 1900s, the Earth was thinly populated anyhow. There was not a huge population. So in terms of the world population, the expansion, the point of reference probably can actually be brought much closer, not 12,000 years ago, but maybe, I don't know, even in the late 1900s, probably. Another point which, or another remark that I have is at the end of the Cold War in the 1990s, there was a huge moment when we thought, okay, now we're living in one world and now we can make great progress forward. But I think a lot of people forget that the end of the Cold War probably meant the overt or the open competition between two broad ideologies, capitalism and communism. But in a sense, this competition, if you want, of ideologies has not stopped from that at that moment. And a final remark, and that brings me also to a certain question, to a question. you speak about this integration, cohesion, and harmony, and you look at the national, the regional, and the global. The way I'm looking at it is that we cannot probably have this global integration and harmony and cohesion without the national and the regional. So if we sort of look at it, if you look at the examples, then the EU experiment, if you want, would be something which shows that actually this regional integration, although not perfect, but brings, I can link that to the speeches of the US presidents about the perfect union. The European Union is not the perfect union, but maybe this regional integration is a sort of model through which we could probably build a global model where we can actually achieve this integration, cohesion, harmony, and where we respect the dignity. So I'm wondering now, how do you look at this at the process from the national to the regional to the global? Is this sort of a walk from the national to the global? So is this bottom up, or is this a top down kind of process, or is it both? What is your perspective? If we're going to achieve this, a world where, based on dignity, a just social order, a just global order, how do you look at this process, and where we are in that walk?
Oh, lovely. I say a big yes to everything you said. The last point, the question. Please remember the 4 points that you made, because I wanted to comment on them. But let me, you have to remind me, but let me say to the last one. Of course, I think we for the global integration, we need the national and the regional experiences. That I didn't say that we don't need them. Of course we need them. So what I always suggest is to harvest. Go around the world and harvest the best solutions. Like Europe, not to take Europe as a wholesale package, but to differentiate. As you say, there are very, very important lessons to learn from the development of the European Union. I was, in fact, a candidate for the European Parliament in 1994. So I went there and I studied that, and what really convinces me or impresses me is the concept of subsidiarity. Because that's a concept that makes unity in diversity operational. It means that for things that are local, the authority should also be local. It wouldn't be good that, for example, Haringfele, the violin in Norway, is regulated in some global capital. It would be very stupid. But it would be equally stupid to leave the global climate change interventions to every community on their own. It is important to coordinate that globally. So there are things that need to be decided locally, and there are things that need to be decided globally, and there needs to be processes that calibrate that. And there, the European Union is an amazing kind of university to learn that. You know, how people say, no, this shouldn't be regulated in Brussels. We should have the authority here. And Brussels is always taking too much of us and so on. So this is a very important lesson to learn from the European Union, this subsidiarity, and how it is being also always opposed and has difficulties to stay and everything. So the other thing, when you look at the European Union, it's a fortress. If you just look at these fences there, it's terrible. So as soon as a regional power builds a fortress against others, then we have a problem. So I always say, let's harvest, let's go around, subsidiarity, European Union, important lesson. Then Hawaii, let's study Ho'oponopono. Let's go to Somalia, let's study the pastoralist democracy. let's go to all the indigenous populations. I just spent these wonderful days in North Thailand in the Karen village, where they have developed the concept of the lazy man, which means the man who does not jump on the bandwagon of destruction, but So we need to go to the indigenous populations. We need to go to the people who still know how to survive in the rainforest sustainably. And. So we need to harvest the best solutions wherever they are, and to honor them and to nurture them. So we need the local, we need the regional, we need the global, and we need to put it together. And it must be top down and, of course, bottom up at the same time. At the moment, I see too few people doing it top down. I see many people trying it bottom up. Everywhere in the world I go, there are small projects and initiatives that try to bring a different, a more dignified reality into the world. Local communities doing a lot of things. And I see, why do I not participate? Why do I not dedicate my life to one of these projects? Because I see that the overall context is destructing them at the moment when they get really impact. I see that small people, a group of people has a lovely idea, then they found an NGO, then they make a project plan, then they get some money, then they have an office, then they carry out a wonderful project. In the moment where it gets more impact, the money is cut. And then you have cynical idealists. The world is full of cynical idealists that I meet who have wonderful projects. And so I see that. So at the moment I see that there's a lot of goodwill coming up, and it is cut the moment it gets really empty. Like in Brazil where I was. When you really stand up, you are murdered. Against the land and. So, and not just in Brazil. So, at the moment what is lacking is people who are thinking globally and who are really putting their lives into thinking, how could a planet with a human family on it work in the long run in a dignified way? What different rules do we need? How do we have to change our institutions, our rules and regulations? We need a deep, deep, deep redefinition there. There I see there are too few people who do that. There's a lack of people there. The other, so at the moment I think, I would like to make a small comment to one of the points first. Whenever I talk about my work, there are 2 points that get people very angry. Often. Here, only 1 point came up. One point is often that people say, but equality in dignity, we don't want that. We don't want that everybody is the same. So they mix up equality with being the same, with identity, with being everybody identical. And I have to say now, unity in diversity is the definition of dignity, and equal dignity not. It's unity in diversity, it's not uniformity without diversity. So many people have big problems in understanding unity in diversity. They think okay, if we want unity, then we need to accept uniformity. Then we rather have division, I say. So, the other argument that makes people angry is what you also mentioned with the human nature. Are we, where does conflict start? And where does war start? There is a very interesting documentary on Norwegian television just now. Menneskets første krig, humankind's first war, where a team of documentary filmmakers went around and tried to find where is the first war in history, in human history. And they interview the hawks and the doves. The hawks say human nature is violent. We are the killer ape. And it's, very, very naive to believe that we ever could have peace, because it's in our nature and in our genes and so on. And then there's the other camp who says, no, it's the situation that makes us warlike. And so this documentary is quite nice. I think if you click on Menneskets første krig, it's originally in English, now with Norwegian subtitles. You can see it on the internet. It's for another week available. It's lovely to see. It's nice to sit down and have half an hour. It takes an hour. So my personal conclusion from after 30 years, 40 years of living globally is we are social beings, and out of that comes war. Easily, as soon as we are in a situation where resources are scarce, where circumscription hits us, then we get in a situation where we can't avoid conflict and war almost. You have this word in political science, security dilemma. It's a dilemma where everybody is caught. Like in Rwanda, did the people who were hacking to death their Tutsi neighbors, did they do that because they were killer apes? Or their nature gave them the lust to kill? No. They did it because they loved the Hutu cause more. And they felt that killing the others was necessary, and also because they really felt, it's a longer story, but they didn't kill just because they had a lust to kill. And then you have a lot of literature how difficult it is to get soldiers to kill, and how psychologically damaged they are when they come back from war. And so the human nature is not made to kill, it's made to be social. And as soon as you are asked to protect your own group, then you will go to war. And you will teach the young males to go to war, because they are more dispensable in the community. The women are not needed to bring up the next generation. The young men are those who are most dispensable in a group. So if you want to survive as a group in a situation where others might come and attack you, like it happened in human history everywhere, then you train your young men to define it as an honor to die early in war. And then you have this patriarchal culture, and you end up with that men really identify with that. And then you have a kind of vicious circle. So I think this is how it developed. So I stand on the side, I think that this dichotomy of killer ape versus noble savage, these two camps, that this dichotomy is misleading. It's false. It's a false dichotomy.
I just have a small remark, and it's an old Indian saying that in every human being there are two wolves. One that wants, is full of hatred and wants to kill, and the other one is a loving wolf. And it all depends on who you are feeding. So that's another way of, looking at it. But it's there, so. Lina, do you want to say?
It is a really fascinating presentation, thank you. And I just spend all day thinking about dignity. It's so nice to just be in a room with people talking about it. I have lots of questions, but I guess the question that I'd like to ask from the perspective of my research is whether you think you're thinking about dignity as a particular conception of dignity, or whether it's something else, because I'm not totally certain of the relationship between dignity and humiliation in your work. So I guess my question is dignity by definition the absence of humiliation, like humiliation was defined in 1775 as the violation of someone's dignity, because that feels to me like a very particular conceptualization of dignity, and one that feels different from the way we think about dignity in the UDHR, for example, where you have this dignity, this kind of notion of inherent dignity. So I guess my question is whether I'm writing a paper at the moment in which I look at the way different courts around the world use dignity to mean humanness, to somehow encapsulate something fundamentally about the human, either as legal subject or just as being. And I try and work out what the implications are for how we define nature, because of course there's a long history of defining dignity in opposition to nature. So it was about what humans are when they are not the beast, right? But this seems to me to be something quite discrete. Dignity is the absence of humiliation. Feels maybe like something different, but perhaps I'm wrong.
You know, when I started studying, I started with studying humiliation, and then I came more and more into dignity and honor. It comes from observation, not from theory, because of this living globally. And when, you know, for me, the biggest difference or dichotomy is really when you think, here I am. This is the sense of my worth that you would have to look at me to see what I do now.
Sorry. Stop taking
No. So if I respect myself so much, and I respect you so much, then we are on one level. Likeverd, equal dignity. This is a universe where everything that follows is different as compared to a world where I say, this is me, and you are either above me or below me.
Right.
These to me are the two fundamental normative ethical universes. And the word, the mere word dignity fits in both.
Right.
Decorum, a dignitary. A dignitary is a person who is higher. So the word dignity says nothing.
Right.
So in the past, in a decorum, Cicero I think, or says decorum. So the word dignity can be used in the ranked universe, and it has a completely different standing and function and everything in a world where everybody thinks that everybody should be equal in dignity. I think this is the biggest difference. And the word dignity alone says nothing. It can be the opposite. It can mean the opposite of the other. It depends in which context it is embedded.
This is what I like about it.
Yeah, and natural law, you know, it's that context. What I see is, if I look at the history of human beings, then I see that the last 5%, we live in societies where they were ranked, dominator model of society, most of us. And I think people are right who say that before the Neolithic Revolution, we lived in small groups where there was no deep hierarchy in the structure of the group, but more egalitarian groups. It's very difficult. This is a long discussion, but I tend to believe that this is the right conclusion. Not least because I see that during the past 5% of our history, we see always the attempt to undo that ranking system. Like the founders of religions always started, we are equal. Jesus, you know, going to the prostitute, or Sikh religion, Islam, they have a strong notion of equality in dignity in the beginning, until they are eaten up by the ranked context and they become a ranked hierarchical church, etc. So I see that there is a sense in the bodies, in the souls of us human beings, that the equality in dignity concept is the right one for us. We come from there, and that we have to bow, we have to be beaten into bowing, you know, often. We have to be, you know, it's a lot of effort to keep dominated societies in place. We have Hegel, the slave, the master slave. You know, in 700 after Christ, there are 2 kings in France, and they didn't do this dominating work, you know, beating, torturing, or even only seating orders. You know, they didn't do that well enough, so they were toppled. And how are they called? Lazy kings, because they didn't do the dominator work. So to keep people in the ranking order is hard work. People don't really, it's not really easy. And then, okay, so now I think we link up to when we talk about equality and dignity, we link up to that time before the Neolithic, or we should, revolution, and we don't find many people in the world who have that in their bodies. But we all see that in Rwanda, for example, I was asked not to ask a person whether this person had a Hutu or Tutsi background. It's not good to speak about that there. And they said to me, just look at them, at their bodies. A Hutu with a Hutu background for centuries has been taught to bow. So the body language of a Hutu will be like that. And just look at the Tutsis, the elite, they will be like that. Just look at the body. So it's in the body. And to me, I think dignity now, if people ask me, it's one of the most difficult thing to define theoretically, but it's in the body. It is felt. It is when you are on the same line with others. People have a feeling, a body feeling for that. And some people, for them, it's too difficult. In Japan, to me, the experience was there really. Wherever I am, I try to make another person feel equal to me. And some people are very happy and astonished when somebody who's sweeping, like here in this institute or wherever in the institutes here, you have people from Ethiopia or from Tamils or so and I go and I ask them for their name and the family, and so I don't regard them as invisible. I go there and they are happy. In Japan, I did that with people like operating the elevator. They wouldn't want that. So there it's very strong hierarchy. So it's in the body. It's something that we have almost all been socialized into a ranking system, and we now come out here, at least in the West, into an equal dignity. So the point for me is equal dignity as compared to unequal dignity. This is for me the important transition, not dignity alone. And then we are now entering this, and nobody is socialized into that. Of course, none of us is socialized into how to be a person that is equal in dignity, except Norway, because Norway has never been really deeply embedded into an empire. So people, like in Rwanda, the Hutus really for centuries were taught to bow. In Norway, nobody did that work. The farmers have each their farms, and there are the little philosopher, every farmer his own king or his own philosopher. You don't see the villages where you have the castle with a knight at the top. You don't see that. Why? Because Norway is so far away and nothing to steal here in the past. So it's not worth to come here and to build an empire, really, So the Danes had 200 people in Christiania and left the rest of Norway more or less untouched. So the notion of that each person is worth something and has a right to speak out is stronger here. I find that when I travel, wherever I go, the embodied equality in dignity is difficult to explain. People don't have that direct access, except in Norway. In Norway, I see that people have a direct access to what it means to be equal in dignity. The others have a hope, a dream, but difficult to have an equal access. Like the woman who is beaten. It's not easy to teach her to stand up. It's very difficult to teach her to stand up. She wants it, but then she can't. So in Norway, therefore, I really regard Norway as the main platform of my work. I spend at least 2 months per year here. Also, for a woman, I feel that when I come, for example, visit my parents in Central Europe, I feel I shrink, or in the United States, I feel I shrink because women are not listened to, not looked at. And then I come here, and then, oh, I have to be careful what I say because people listen to me. So, Norway has, due to its history of being far away, geopolitically marginal, I think it was spared this thorough training in bowing, and therefore has kept a culture of standing upright, which is of course being lost now through the ideology of the market. Oh yeah, the rich one, they deserve to be rich because they were so good, and therefore, so the inequality is seeping in here too, of course now. And so it's being lost, but it is a heritage.